The great conclave chamber of the Galactic Council had been designed to intimidate. Its architects, long extinct, had believed that power must be felt before it was understood. The ceiling rose for kilometers into a darkness studded with artificial stars. Gravity was subtly modulated so that no species felt disadvantaged by its native physiology. Sound carried perfectly, translated instantly, and remembered nothing. What was said here would echo across the galaxy in consequence, not acoustics. On this cycle, the chamber was full. 12 delegations occupied their assigned arcs around the circular forum. Some sat, some hovered, some rooted themselves into nutrient troughs. Vapors, spores, pheromones, and electromagnetic fields mingled in the air, each species, version of breathing forming a low, constant rhythm, an organic metronome that marked the slow continuity of galactic order. That rhythm stopped. Ambassador Kafir of the Zephyrian Concord rose from his place. The movement was small, barely noticeable, yet it fractured the moment. Kafir's species did not stand lightly. The Zephyrians were old, older than most empires, older even than some stars whose light now reached the council chamber only as a memory. When a Zephyrian ambassador rose without formal summons, it meant either apology or accusation. Kafir's scales, usually a calm cerulean, had darkened to a bruised indigo. His hands, four-jointed and webbed with bioluminescent veins, clutched a slim data slate so tightly that its surface flickered under the pressure. Council leader Jarn noticed immediately. Her tentacles stilled mid-gesture, their usual slow, diplomatic choreography freezing in place. Jarn had presided over this council for 174 standard years. She had overseen wars, dissolutions, first contacts, and genocides narrowly averted by procedural votes. She had never seen Kafir like this. Ambassador Kafir, Jarn said, her voice amplified through the chamber's omnilingual matrix, you have not requested the floor. Kafir did not sit. I am invoking emergency privilege, he replied. His voice was steady, but the light along his veins pulsed erratically, a biological tell impossible to suppress. Under Article 7 of the Founding Charter, a ripple of unease passed through the chamber. Article 7 had been invoked only 4 times in recorded council history. Every time, entire civilizations had ceased to exist within a century. Jarn hesitated just long enough for every delegate to feel it. Granted, she said at last, state your cause. Kafir lifted his gaze, not toward Jarn, toward the delegation seated directly opposite him, toward the representatives of the hegemony. You assaulted Earth, Kafir said. The words were simple, translatable into every known language, devoid of metaphor. They detonated anyway. For half a second, no one reacted. The chamber seemed to hold its breath, as if even the artificial gravity had paused to listen. Then came the noise. Delegates erupted into speech, sound, color, motion. Clicks and roars and harmonic pulses overlapped as translation systems strained to keep pace. Some species recoiled instinctively. Others leaned forward, sensory organs flaring. A few, older powers, went unnervingly still. Earth. The name alone carried weight disproportionate to its technological status. Earth was forbidden. Ambassador Velter of the hegemony did not rise. He remained seated, his elongated frame rigid gray dermal plates darkening by subtle degrees. His species was known for its discipline, emotion tightly regulated, reactions measured. Yet his secondary forearms twitched against the armrests, betraying a tension he had not expected to feel. That claim is impossible, Velter said calmly, projecting authority rather than volume. Earth is protected under the Terran Accords. No contact is permitted. The hegemony abides by all standing treaties. A lie. Kafir's scales darkened further. 3 months ago, he said, a hegemony pacification fleet departed from your forward military base at Kepler 42, 200 warships, heavy assault configuration. Their trajectory was plotted directly toward the Sol system. The chamber convulsed. "Order," Jarn commanded. Her voice cut through the chaos with practiced force, amplified through every sensory channel. Light levels shifted. Acoustic dampeners engaged. The delegates quieted, reluctantly, the way predators quiet when a larger predator enters the clearing. Jarn turned her attention to Velter. "Ambassador," she said, each word precise, "is this accusation true?" Velter's gaze flicked, just once to the data slate in Kafir's hands, then back to Jarn. "The hegemony recognizes no external authority over its internal military movements," he replied. "If a fleet was mobilized, it was done within our sovereign rights." A murmur swept the chamber. "That is not an answer," Jarn said. "It is the only answer you are entitled to," Velter replied. Kafir slammed his data slate onto the central projection dais. The hologram bloomed into existence above the table. Star charts, fleet registries, time-stamped launch vectors. Even the least technologically inclined delegates could read the story written in light. 200 hegemony warships. Departure confirmed. Course locked. Destination, Sol. Then nothing. The fleet's icons vanished at the outer edge of the system, swallowed by blank space where data should have been. "No victory broadcasts," Kafir said, his voice rising despite himself. "No colonial declarations. No resource extraction signatures. No orbital infrastructure. Nothing." "That proves nothing," Velter said, but the confidence had thinned. Ambassador Kureth of the Stellar Confederation leaned forward, silver skin catching the chamber's light. "It proves everything," she said quietly. "Hegemony doctrine requires a status transmission within 14 standard days of successful conquest. 3 months had passed. Ambassador Wexel of the Tristar Alliance emitted a rapid clicking pattern, his species, equivalent of incredulous laughter. 200 ships do not simply go silent," he said. "Not unless they are destroyed," Kafir finished. The words settled over the chamber like ash. "That is absurd," Velter snapped, rising now despite himself. "Humans are primitive. They possess no faster-than-light capability, no energy weapons, no fleet." "Then where are your ships?" Kureth asked. Velter opened his mouth, closed it. For the first time since the accusation had been spoken, the chamber understood something fundamental. The hegemony did not know. Jarn felt it then, a sensation she had learned to recognize across centuries of power shifts and collapses. This was not the prelude to a diplomatic incident. This was the opening note of a reckoning. And somewhere, far beyond the chamber's artificial stars, Earth had answered an assault no one was supposed to remember. The council chamber did not erupt again. That, more than any shouting, frightened Jarn. In her long tenure, outrage had been common. Fear had been common. Even panic had made appearances. But this restrained, collective stillness was rarer. It meant the delegates were no longer arguing about whether something had gone wrong. They were beginning to suspect how badly. Jarn let the silence stretch for several heartbeats longer than etiquette demanded. She needed them focused. Then she spoke. "Ambassador Kafir," she said, "you will submit all supporting intelligence to the council record, in full." Kafir inclined his head. "Already done." The hologram above the table shifted. The simple star chart dissolved into layers of data, sensor telemetry, intercepted communications, deep-range gravitic readings. Streams of information scrolled in parallel columns, each tailored to the perceptual limits of the species viewing it. What one delegate saw as numbers, another perceived as color gradients or harmonic oscillations. Chief Analyst Yiklon appeared in a secondary projection, his multiple eye stalks swiveling independently as he addressed the chamber. The Zephyrian Concord is not alone in observing this anomaly, Yiklon said. Long-range monitoring arrays from 5 independent powers confirm the same phenomenon. He gestured, and the display zoomed out. Here, he continued, are all recorded instances of hegemony fleet movements over the last 2 centuries. You will note a consistent pattern. Icons flared to life across the map, hundreds of them, each representing a conquest, a suppression, a so-called pacification. In every prior engagement, Yiklon said, hegemony fleets broadcast dominance signals within hours of arrival. Energy signatures spike. Orbital platforms are deployed. Communications traffic increases exponentially. The icons pulsed rhythmically, each conquest following the same brutal cadence. Then Yiklon highlighted Saul. The rhythm broke. There is no spike, he said. No increase in emissions. No detectable debris field. No residual radiation consistent with nuclear exchange. No wreckage consistent with fleet destruction. Ambassador Rendok of the Verdant Clades shifted, his bark-like limbs creaking softly. You are saying the fleet is not merely silent, Rendok said. You are saying it vanished cleanly. Yes, Yiklon replied, which should be impossible. A low-frequency hum passed through the chamber, an involuntary reaction from several species whose nervous systems responded to paradox with physical vibration. Ambassador Nexvara of the Void Walkers had not moved since the accusation. Her species rarely did. They were adapted to environments where motion was costly and silence was survival. Now she spoke. Silence is not absence, Nexvara said, her voice cold and measured. It is information. All eyes turned toward her. In void warfare, she continued, the most dangerous adversary is not the one who fires first. It is the one who does not fire at all, who waits, who observes, who denies you even the certainty of opposition. She inclined her head slightly toward Velter. The hegemony's fleet has not announced victory, nor has it signaled defeat. That suggests neither outcome occurred in the expected way. Velter's dermal plates darkened further, approaching the near-black hue that, among his species, indicated sustained stress. This discussion is speculation, he said. Even if contact was made, even if resistance occurred, humans lack the capability to neutralize a full hegemony battle group. Then explain the data, Kureth said. Velter spread his upper forearms in a defensive gesture. Long-range communications degrade over interstellar distances, he said. Equipment failures happen. Delays occur. Not like this, Kafir replied. He gestured again and the hologram shifted to a timeline. This is Hegemony Fleet Gamma 7, he said. Destroyed during the Third Carsian Uprising. Note the signal decay curve. A sharp spike, then a gradual fade as systems failed. Now compare that, Kafir continued, to what we see at Saul. The timeline flattened, no spike, no fade, just nothing. Your fleet did not die screaming, Kafir said quietly. It did not die at all as far as our sensors can tell. The implication crept through the chamber like a toxin. Ambassador Wexel clicked slowly, thoughtfully. Insect doctrine teaches us to fear the empty web, he said. When prey disappears without struggle, it means the predator is too efficient to leave traces. Several delegates recoiled at the metaphor. Jarn felt a chill she did not allow to reach her tentacles. Chief Analyst, she said, what is the statistical likelihood of a total communications failure across 200 vessels simultaneously? Yiklon's eye stalk stilled. Assuming independent systems, he said, less than 1 in 10 to the power of 27. A few species gasped. Others emitted involuntary chemical signals of alarm. Jarn absorbed the number without visible reaction. And the likelihood, she asked, that a pre-FTL civilization eliminated those vessels. Yiklan hesitated. If we rely on publicly available human capability assessments, he said slowly, the probability approaches 0. Jarn nodded. And if those assessments are wrong, Yiklan did not answer immediately. Then the probability approaches 1. The chamber felt suddenly smaller. Ambassador Kureth folded her hands together, her silver skin dimming slightly. Our last official survey of Earth was conducted 15 standard years ago, she said. At that time, humanity had achieved limited orbital presence, chemical propulsion, crude nuclear deterrence, no evidence of unified planetary governance. Which is precisely why the Terran Accords were necessary, said Ambassador Nixvara. Were they? Kureth asked. The Void Walker turned her gaze toward Kureth, her eyes like dark apertures into vacuum. That is the question we have been avoiding, Nixvara replied. Jarn felt it again, that tightening in her core that signaled a shift too large to stop. Ambassador Nixvara, she said carefully, you are implying prior knowledge. I am implying, Nixvara said, that the Accords may not have been created solely out of compassion. Kafir's scales lightened slightly, curiosity overtaking distress. Explain, he said. Nixvara gestured and a new set of data appeared. Historical council records, archival votes, sealed minutes declassified only to senior members. 50 standard years ago, Nixvara said, when the Terran Accords were proposed, the vote barely passed. But examine who supported it. Icons highlighted certain delegations, ancient powers, long-lived civilizations, species whose military doctrines emphasized restraint rather than conquest. The strongest advocates for isolating Earth, Nixvara continued, were not the gentle, they were the survivors. A hush fell. The Eternal Dominion voted in favor, Kafir murmured. So did the Crystal Hierophants and the Machine Collective. Yes, Nixvara said, civilizations that had seen thousands of worlds rise and fall. Jarn felt a flicker of unease. The Eternal Dominion collapsed 3 centuries ago, she said. Their records are fragmentary. Fragmentary, Nixvara agreed. Not absent. Velter laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. This is absurd, he said. You are suggesting that humans, an isolated, divided species, pose a threat to galactic civilization. Nixvara regarded him without expression. I am suggesting, she said, that your fleet may have answered that question for us. Silence returned, not the charged silence of accusation, but the heavy silence of realization. If Earth had not merely survived the assault, if Earth had erased it, then the galaxy had been catastrophically wrong about its place in the hierarchy. Jarn straightened. This council will not descend into conjecture, she said. We require facts. She turned to Kafir. Ambassador, she said, what is your recommendation? Kafir did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice was steady, but his eyes were dark. We must send observers, he said, unmanned, long-range, stealth-capable. If Earth is unchanged, we lose nothing. If it is not, he trailed off. Jarn finished the thought. Then we need to know before whatever silenced 200 warships decides to speak. Across the chamber, Ambassador Velter felt something unfamiliar tightening in his chest. For the first time since his species had taken to the stars, he wondered if conquest had finally found its answer, and whether that answer was already watching them. The council archive was older than the chamber itself. It existed in no single location, but in layers, quantum-encoded strata distributed across hundreds of secure nodes. each one maintained by a different civilization, each one sworn to neutrality. The archive did not judge. It remembered, and now, under emergency authority, it was being opened wider than it had been in generations. Council leader Jarn presided from the central dais, her posture rigid. Around her, delegates interfaced with the archive in ways unique to their species, some through direct neural links, others through holographic overlays, still others through symbiotic archivists bred for the task. The subject of inquiry was singular: the Terran Accords. "Begin with the founding session," Jarn ordered. The chamber dimmed. Then the past unfolded. A reconstructed council meeting shimmered into existence above the forum, 50 standard years earlier. The faces were different. Some species were gone now, their civilizations collapsed or absorbed. Others remained, older but unmistakably the same. The tone of that meeting was strained, not celebratory, not benevolent, afraid. "This is not how it is usually remembered," Ambassador Kureth said quietly. "No," Kafir agreed. "The public record frames the Accords as an act of altruism." Jarn watched the playback carefully. On the projection, an ancient delegate of the Crystal Hierophant spoke, its crystalline body refracting light into fractal rainbows. "We have observed this species," the Hierophant said. "We advise distance." Another delegate followed, the Machine Collective's representative, a lattice of shifting geometry and cold logic. "Probability models indicate unacceptable risk vectors," it stated. "Isolation is optimal." A murmur passed through the present-day chamber. "These were not moral arguments," Kureth said. "They were risk assessments." "Continue," Jarn said. The projection advanced. An unfamiliar species took the floor, tall, radiant, unmistakably authoritative. The insignia identified them as representatives of the Eternal Dominion. The chamber grew still. Few living beings had ever seen an Eternal Dominion delegate speak. Their empire had vanished 3 centuries earlier, leaving behind only ruins, half-translated warnings, and unanswered questions. "Earth is not what it appears," the Dominion delegate said. "We advise against interference." A delegate from a younger power scoffed. "They are divided," the younger delegate said. "Primitive, they fight among themselves. They cannot even agree on planetary governance." The Dominion representative's response was slow. "So did we," it said. The playback froze. In the present, Ambassador Rendok's leaves rustled softly, a sign of deep discomfort. "They knew something," he said. Nexvara inclined her head. "They remembered something." Jarn turned toward her. "You have been implying prior encounters," Jarn said. "State plainly what you believe." Nexvara did not rush her answer. "The galaxy," she said, "has encountered 47 species that develop spaceflight independently. Of those, only 3 did so without any external contact, assistance, or provocation." A display appeared. 47 Right Arrow 3 humans are one of those 3, Nexvara continued. "They reached orbit alone. They reached their moon alone. They split atoms alone. They nearly destroyed themselves alone and did not." Velter snorted. "That proves nothing," he said. "Independence does not equal danger." "No," Nexvara replied, "but adaptation does." She gestured, and the archive displayed a comparative timeline: human development compressed, wars accelerating technology, crises producing innovation, loss followed by resilience. "They advance fastest under threat," Nexvara said. "And unlike most species, they do not unify under external pressure by submitting." "What do they do, then?" Kureth asked. Nexvara's eyes darkened. "They harden." Kafir felt an old memory stir, something his ancestors had whispered about but never recorded. "The Zephyrian Concord attempted contact once," he said slowly, 87 years ago. A listening probe detected anomalous emissions near Earth orbit, too organized to be random. Several heads turned. We sent envoys, Kafir continued, peaceful, cautious. They were expected. Velter's gaze snapped toward him. You never reported this. We were asked not to, Kafir replied evenly, by the humans. The chamber erupted again, short, sharp bursts of outrage, disbelief, and shock. You met them? Kureth demanded. Yes, Kafir said. Briefly, they knew our language before we arrived. They knew our political structure. They knew which factions within our conquered would oppose contact. Jarn's tentacles tightened. What did they say? Kafir swallowed. They said, we are not ready to be known and you are not ready to know us. Silence fell. They offered trade, Rendok asked. Limited, Kafir said. Biological data, cultural exchange, no technology transfer, and then they asked us to leave. And you complied, Velter said incredulously. Yes, Kafir said simply, because we realized they had been observing us for decades already. Nexvara nodded. That was not an isolated incident, she said. Fragments in the archive suggest similar encounters, quiet, undocumented, always ending the same way. Secrecy, Kureth murmured. Containment, Nexvara corrected. Jarn felt the weight of it settle into her core. The Accords, she said slowly, were not written to protect Earth from us. No, Nexvara said. They were written to protect us from provoking Earth. Velter slammed his forearm against the table. This is conjecture layered on fear, he snapped. My people have ruled for centuries. We have faced apex predators, machine gods, and living stars. Humans are mammals with chemical rockets. Were, Nexvara said. The word echoed. Jarn turned back to the archive. Is there any record, she asked, of what happened when the Eternal Dominion encountered Earth? The archive hesitated, a rare thing. Then it displayed a single line, classified, origin data lost. Below it, a note, encoded in Dominion script but translated flawlessly. Do not return. A cold ripple passed through the chamber. Jarn straightened. This council will not be governed by ghosts, she said, but neither will we ignore them. She looked to the central display where Sol glowed quietly, an unassuming yellow star surrounded by nothing remarkable at all. Prepare the probes, she ordered, unmanned, stealth configured, maximum observational range. She paused, then added, and activate all passive sensors, no active scans. If Earth is watching, I will not have us announce ourselves. Across the chamber, Ambassador Velter felt something shift inside him. Not fear, not yet. Doubt. And doubt, he knew, was far more dangerous to an empire built on certainty. As the Council adjourned to await the probe launch, one truth had settled beyond dispute. If Earth had destroyed a hegemony fleet, it had done so without announcing victory. Which meant whatever humanity had become, it did not need the galaxy's permission to exist. The emergency beacon was so weak that most systems would have dismissed it as background noise. It pulsed once every 47 minutes, an irregular, degraded signal buried beneath cosmic radiation and subspace static. No standard hegemony transponder operated at that frequency. No known escape protocol used that interval. Which was why it took 3 days of continuous analysis before a junior sensor technician aboard a Zephyrian patrol vessel noticed the anomaly at all, and another 2 days before anyone believed it. The object was located far from any major travel corridor, drifting between stars like a forgotten thought. No active propulsion, no navigational corrections, just slow, inevitable momentum carrying it nowhere in particular. A single escape pod, hegemony design, damaged. The rescue ship Quiet Vigil altered course immediately. Council leader Jarn was notified within minutes. Ambassador Kafir arrived at the medical station before the pod was even secured in a containment cradle. Ambassador Velter arrived an hour later, silent, rigid, his gray dermal plates so dark they absorbed the station's light. No one spoke as the pod was brought in. Its hull was scarred in ways none of them recognized. Not kinetic impacts, not plasma scoring, not the ragged tearing of explosive decompression. The metal looked peeled, as if space itself had reached out and stripped layers away. Chief Engineer Bax ran his manipulators over the damage, his voice subdued. "These are not weapons signatures we have cataloged," he said. "The energy profile doesn't match anything we know how to generate." The pod was opened in a sterile bay under full quarantine. 3 survivors were found inside: Subcommander Yakarin, Navigation Officer Telmer, Engineer Dexlock, elite, decorated. Veterans of multiple successful campaigns, and utterly broken. Medical staff worked in silence, stabilizing bodies that should not have survived the journey. Dehydration, radiation exposure, neural shock, but none of it explained the blank terror in their eyes. They did not ask where they were. They did not ask who had found them. They only asked one question, over and over in hoarse whispers: did they follow us? Ambassador Velter pushed past the medical cordon as soon as protocol allowed. "I need to speak with them," he demanded. The chief medical officer, a gentle, many-eyed being from a healer species that rarely refused anyone, hesitated. "Ambassador," she said carefully, "they are suffering from extreme psychological trauma. I have treated survivors of planetary annihilation. I have treated victims of mind weapons. This is different." "I don't care," Velter snapped. "I need answers." The healer held his gaze. "Whatever happened to them," she said softly, "did not end when the battle ended." Velter entered the recovery ward alone. Yakarin lay curled on his side, his limbs drawn close, dermal plates pale and brittle. His eyes darted at every sound, every movement of light. "Subcommander," Velter said, forcing authority into his voice, "it's me." Yakarin's breathing hitched. Slowly, painfully, recognition dawned. Then he began to shake. "They knew," Yakarin whispered. Velter froze. "Knew what?" "That we were coming," Yakarin said. "They were waiting." Velter stepped closer. "Who was waiting?" Yakarin's eyes met his. "The humans," he said, then after a long pause, "and something else." Velter felt a chill spread through his core. "Explain." Yakarin swallowed, his throat clicking dryly. "When we dropped out of faster than light," he said, "everything looked exactly like the surveys. One inhabited planet, a few orbital objects, nothing that could threaten us." His voice wavered. "The Admiral was pleased. He said it would be a textbook pacification." "What changed?" Velter asked. "The satellites," Yakarin said. Velter frowned. "Primitive communication arrays." Yakarin let out a short, broken laugh. "They moved." Silence. "They weren't fixed orbits," Yakarin continued. "They weren't even solid, not really. They unfolded, reshaped themselves, and then they started firing." "What kind of weapons?" Velter demanded. Yakarin shook his head. "Light," he said. "But not energy, not plasma. It was like space itself was being cut. Our hull armor didn't fail, it was ignored." Velter felt his confidence fracture. "Our shields did nothing," Yakarin said, his voice rising. "The beams passed through them like they weren't there." "How many satellites?" Velter asked. "Hundreds," Yakarin whispered. "Maybe thousands. They were everywhere, hiding among asteroids disguised as debris. We never saw them until they moved." Velter's secondary forearms trembled. "And the fleet?" Yakarin closed his eyes. "That was just the beginning." Across the ward, Navigation Officer Telmer stirred. She had been listening. "They came out of nowhere," she said, her voice hollow. "Ships. Real ships." Velter turned. "What ships?" Telmer stared at the ceiling as if replaying the memory there. They didn't accelerate, she said. They just were somewhere else. No engines, no thrusters. They twisted and turned like living things. How many? Velter asked again. I couldn't count, Telmer replied. But it didn't matter. Each one was stronger than an entire battle group. Engineer Dexlock spoke next, his voice flat, almost mechanical. Their weapons bent space, he said. They didn't explode our ships, they unmade them. Systems failed in patterns that made no tactical sense except to disable, not destroy. Velter sank into a chair. You're saying they could have wiped you out instantly, he said. Yes, Yakarin replied. Then why didn't they? The three survivors exchanged glances. Finally, Yakarin spoke. They spoke to us. Velter looked up sharply. Spoke. On all frequencies, Yakarin said. In perfect hegemony standard. No delay. No translation lag. What did they say? Yakarin's voice dropped to a whisper. You have 30 seconds to surrender or be destroyed. Velter's claws dug into the armrest. And the Admiral ordered full attack, Yakarin said. Immediately, Telmer's hands clenched. And it was over in 6 hours. 6 hours, 200 ships, centuries of conquest doctrine erased in a single rotation. They let us escape, Telmer said. Disabled ships first, gave crews time to abandon. They chose not to kill us. Dexlock nodded. They captured some pods, he said, brought them aboard their ships. Velter's voice was barely audible. You saw them. Yes, Dexlock said, through the viewports. What did they look like? Like humans, Dexlock replied. But their eyes, he hesitated. They looked old, he finished. Not aged. Ancient, like they had seen this before. Yakarin swallowed hard. They told us to go home, he said, to tell the council what we saw. Velter felt his breath catch. They released you. Yes, Yakarin said, but not before they said one last thing. Velter leaned forward. What? Yakarin's voice shook. Your kind has come to our world before. That time none of you returned. We have become more merciful since then. The ward fell silent. Velter stared at the three broken soldiers, men who had never known defeat, now reduced to trembling witnesses. Is there anything else? He asked quietly. Dexlock answered. They downloaded our navigation data, he said. All of it. Velter's skin went completely black. You're saying they know? Where every hegemony world is, Dexlock finished. Where the council worlds are, trade routes, military installations. Yakarin nodded. They've been watching us, he whispered, for a long time. Velter stood slowly, his mind reeling. As he left the medical ward, the station windows revealed nothing but empty space. But for the first time in his life, Ambassador Velter did not see safety in that emptiness. He saw eyes, and he realized with cold certainty that the galaxy's most feared empire had not been defeated by a superior force, but spared by one that did not consider it a threat, and that was far worse. The Council Analysis Wing was sealed, not ceremonially sealed, not politically sealed, but locked down at the deepest operational level. No external data streams, no non-essential personnel, no passive broadcasting of any kind. Even the ambient quantum noise that normally flowed through Council systems had been dampened. Council leader Jarn did not like it. She had approved the lockdown anyway. The reason lay at the center of the chamber, hovering in a containment field. The hegemony escape pod's navigation core. It should have been unremarkable. Hegemony systems were robust but orthodox, layered redundancies, predictable encryption architectures, aggressive counter-intrusion logic. Council technicians had dissected such cores thousands of times. This one had resisted them, not by blocking access, but by waiting. Chief Technician Calvex leaned forward, her six-fingered hands dancing across a multi-spectrum interface. Her species had evolved pattern recognition organs that could perceive relationships other minds missed. It was why the Council trusted them with its most delicate technical mysteries. "This file," she said quietly, "does not belong here." Kafir looked up from a tactical projection. "Explain." Calvex brought the file into view. It did not appear encrypted in any known sense. No cipher layers, no obfuscation, no hostile code. It sat in the core's memory like a fossil embedded in stone, older than the surrounding data, yet perfectly preserved. "I have cross-referenced the creation markers," Calvex continued. "They do not match hegemony manufacturing signatures. They do not match any known council species." "Could it be corruption?" Jarn asked. Calvex shook her head. "Corruption is random," she said. "This is intentional, structured, elegant." Nexvara watched in silence. "Open it," Jarn said. Calvex hesitated. "Council leader," she said carefully, "if this is an intrusion vector." "If it were hostile," Nexvara interrupted, "we would already be compromised." Calvex swallowed. She activated the file. Every display in the chamber synchronized instantly. Not hacked, not overridden, invited. The image that appeared was Earth, but not the Earth from Council surveys. This Earth was wrapped in light. A lattice of orbital structures encircled the planet, vast, interlinked frameworks that made the largest Council stations look like debris. Ships moved among them with impossible grace, tracing trajectories that ignored inertia and conventional geometry. The planet itself glowed faintly, threaded with energy signatures far beyond anything previously detected. Then a voice spoke. "Greetings, Galactic Council." The translation matrix did not activate. It did not need to. The voice was already speaking perfect galactic standard. "My name is David Chun," it said. "I am authorized to speak on behalf of Earth." Kafir's scales went pale. "That accent," Kureth whispered, "it's natural." The voice continued. "You are undoubtedly confused by recent events. That is understandable. Your historical records are incomplete." The image shifted. Now it showed the galaxy, not as the Council knew it, but overlaid with thousands of additional points of light, hidden stations, concealed transit corridors, observation nodes embedded deep within regions considered empty. "For approximately 350 of your standard years," the voice said, "humanity has been aware of galactic civilization." The chamber erupted, but only briefly. Jarn raised a tentacle and the room fell silent. "Your first contact with our system," the voice continued calmly, "occurred in your year 1671. A vessel operated by the Eternal Dominion entered Sol's space under stealth configuration." Kafir felt something inside him tighten. The Eternal Dominion. "They attempted," the voice said, "what they described as a population reduction colony." The image changed. Ancient Earth cities appeared, but not as Council records depicted them. Defensive networks, energy fields, weapon platforms embedded into terrain. "The Dominion delegation at your Council remembered us," the voice said. "That is why they voted for isolation." Rendok's leaves trembled. "Their ship never returned home," the voice continued. "Not because we destroyed it, but because its crew chose not to." Silence fell like a weight. "The Dominion collapsed generations later," the voice said. "Some of its survivors came to Earth. Others carried the memory of us into exile." Nexvara inclined her head slowly. "So that's why," she murmured. The image shifted again. Now it showed early human history, war, division, catastrophe. Then overlays appeared, alien genetic markers, technological anomalies, moments of sudden advancement. 14 other species attempted covert contact, exploitation, or conquest over the centuries, the voice said. None succeeded. 14. Velter, watching from the back of the chamber, felt his knees weaken. Some came with violence, the voice continued. Some with deception, some with offers of salvation. All were met with the same response. The image froze. We do not surrender, we do not submit, we do not accept conquest. Kafir realized his hands were trembling. You kept this secret, he said aloud, forgetting protocol. Yes, the voice replied as if hearing him. Because secrecy was safer for you. The image shifted again, now showing council chambers, this chamber recorded from impossible angles. Meetings decades old, votes, arguments. You have been observed, the voice said, not continuously, selectively. Kureth felt a chill. You were evaluating us, she said. Yes, the voice replied. We wish to understand the nature of galactic civilization before deciding whether to join it. The implication struck like a physical blow. Join it. Not beg entry, not seek protection. Decide. The Terran Accords, the voice continued, were not created to protect humans from you. They were created because several ancient species believed that contact with Earth would destabilize galactic power structures. The image shifted one final time. A human ship approached the council station. Sleek, silver, silent. This message will terminate when our diplomatic vessel arrives, the voice said. Estimated time to arrival, 6 hours. Jarn found her voice. You embedded this file in the escape pod, she said. Why? To ensure it would be found, the voice replied. And to ensure it would be found by you. Calvex's hands shook. It's responding, she whispered. This isn't a recording. No, the voice agreed. It is a conversation delayed by distance. The image dimmed slightly. The hegemony fleet's attack has forced our hand, the voice said. We can no longer remain observers. The existence of powers willing to enslave developing worlds poses a risk we will not tolerate. Velter stepped forward, his voice raw. You destroyed our fleet. We defended ourselves, the voice corrected, with restraint. Restraint. The age of human isolation is ending, the voice said. Earth will be sending an ambassador to address your council in person. The chamber held its breath. We do not come as supplicants, the voice concluded. We come as participants. The question before you is not whether humanity will join galactic affairs. The image faded. The question, the voice finished, is whether you will face us as partners or as a problem to be solved. The displays went dark. For a long moment no one spoke. Then Jarn exhaled slowly. Send the emergency summons, she said. Full council, all delegations. She looked toward the starfield beyond the chamber. And someone find Ambassador Velter, she added quietly. He deserves to know that Earth has stopped watching and has begun to arrive. The human ship arrived exactly when the message had promised. Not early, not late, exactly. Council Station Hellier, largest artificial structure ever constructed by joint galactic effort, had been designed with tolerances measured in kilometers. No vessel in recorded history had ever translated out of faster-than-light travel closer than 2,000 kilometers without catastrophic miscalculation. Most ships emerged tens of thousands of kilometers off target and spent hours correcting. The human vessel appeared 93 meters from docking port 7. No translation shock, no radiation bloom, no gravitational wake. One moment there was empty space. The next, there was a ship. Every sensor on the station screamed and then failed. Chief Engineer Bax stared at his consoles, all 6 arms frozen mid-motion. It's not there, he said, voice tight with disbelief. Jarn stood at the observation gallery with the other senior delegates, watching through reinforced transparent alloy. Explain, she said. Bax swallowed. Our instruments register mass, he said, but no inertia, No emissions, no thermal gradient. It's like the universe is pretending the ship exists. The vessel was beautiful in a way that hurt to process. It was not angular like hegemony warcraft, nor ornate like Zephyrian designs. Its surface flowed like liquid silver, reflecting the station lights with mirror precision while somehow absorbing the stars behind it. No visible seams, no ports, no engines, no weapons. And yet everyone present felt the same unspoken certainty. If it chose to fire, nothing in the station would matter. "How is it holding position?" Velter asked quietly. Bax shook his head. "It isn't," he said. "It's defining it." The communication channel opened without request. No handshake protocols. No authentication exchange. A calm, human voice filled every auditory spectrum simultaneously. "Council Station Hellier, this is Earth Diplomatic Vessel Harmony. We request permission to dock. One passenger." Jarn straightened. "Permission granted," she said. "Welcome to Council space." The docking process defied every known procedure. The human ship did not maneuver, it flowed. Its hull softened, reshaping itself to match the docking port's geometry with molecular precision. No clamps engaged. No pressure equalization alarms sounded. The ship and station simply agreed. 20 minutes later, the council chamber was filled beyond capacity. Delegations that rarely appeared in physical form had manifested avatars. Emergency envoys arrived breathless from distant systems. No one wanted to miss this. The chamber doors opened. A human entered. He was ordinary, average height, dark skin. Graying hair pulled back neatly. He wore simple clothing, no insignia, no armor, no visible technology. He walked without escort. And yet as he crossed the threshold, the room shifted. Not physically, socially. "My name is Marcus Washington," the human said. His voice carried effortlessly without amplification. "I am Earth's first official ambassador to galactic civilization." Jarn inclined her tentacles in formal greeting. "Welcome, Ambassador Washington," she said. "We acknowledge the historic nature of this moment." Marcus nodded. "It has been a long time coming," he replied. Velter rose unsteadily. "On behalf of the hegemony," he said, voice strained, "I offer formal apology for the unauthorized military action taken against your world." Marcus turned. He did not glare, he did not raise his voice, he simply looked at Velter. "Ambassador," Marcus said calmly, "your apology is noted." Relief flickered across Velter's face. "But it is insufficient." The relief vanished. "You believed Earth to be defenseless," Marcus continued. "You believed our people could be conquered, processed, and enslaved. Those beliefs, not your lack of information, are what led to your decision." Velter tried to speak. Marcus raised a hand. "You were wrong," he said, "but ignorance does not absolve intent." The chamber was silent. Marcus began to walk slowly around the circular table. "For 350 years," he said, "we observed this council. We watched you resolve conflicts peacefully. We also watched you justify atrocities with procedure." Kureth leaned forward. "If you knew," she asked, "why did you not intervene sooner?" Marcus stopped beside her. "Because we hoped you would not need us," he said. "Because we wanted galactic civilization to prove it could evolve beyond conquest on its own." He looked around the chamber. "The attack on Earth demonstrated that it has not." Wexel clicked nervously. "You destroyed an entire fleet," he said. "Is that not conquest?" Marcus shook his head. "No," he said, "that was self-defense with restraint." Velter's voice cracked. "You disabled our military installations," he said, "across our territory." "Yes," Marcus replied, 3 hours ago." Shock rippled through the chamber. "We did not destroy them," Marcus continued. "We removed their capacity to wage aggressive war. Your people are safe. Your soldiers are alive. Your empire still exists. He met Velter's gaze, but it will not conquer again. Jarn found her voice. What is it you want? She asked. Marcus returned to the center of the chamber. Accountability, he said, justice and reform. He raised one finger. The hegemony leadership responsible for the attack on Earth will submit to a joint tribunal, human, council, and neutral representatives. Velter stiffened. My people will never. They already have, Marcus said gently. Velter froze. Your command authority was overridden the moment our vessels arrived, Marcus continued. Your military accepted the shutdown because resisting would have endangered civilian populations. The realization hit like a physical blow. You took our power, Velter whispered. No, Marcus corrected. We took your weapons. He looked around the chamber again. We are not here to rule you, he said. We are here to end an era. An era. The era in which strength justified cruelty, Marcus continued. In which developing worlds were prey, in which conquest was policy. Kureth spoke softly, and if we refuse your oversight, Marcus was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, there was no threat in his tone, only certainty. Then you will discover, he said, that humanity's greatest strength has never been our technology. He paused. It has been our refusal to accept injustice as inevitable. The chamber understood then. Earth was not angry. Earth was done waiting. Marcus inclined his head slightly. You have 72 hours to decide, he said. We will remain available for discussion, negotiation, and clarification. He turned toward the doors. But understand this, he said without looking back. The galaxy has already changed. What remains is whether you change with it. The doors closed behind him. No one moved. Outside the chamber, the human ship held its impossible position, silent, patient, and undeniable. And for the first time in galactic history, the Council understood what it felt like to be judged by something that did not need their approval. The Council did not adjourn. No formal motion was passed. No recess was declared. None of the ritual phrases that usually framed history were spoken. They simply remained where they were, seated in the vast circular chamber, staring at one another as if movement itself might shatter something fragile and newly exposed. For the first time since the Council's founding, no one knew who was truly in control. Council leader Jarn was the first to break the silence. Ambassador Washington, she said carefully, you have presented us with an ultimatum of unprecedented scope, oversight of military action, permanent involvement in galactic governance, the neutralization of a sovereign power's armed forces. She paused. These are acts that, if proposed by any other species, would be considered conquest. Marcus turned back toward her. I understand why it appears that way, he said, but intention matters. Velter let out a bitter sound. Intention, he said. You disabled our fleets, our defenses, our deterrence. You forced our leadership into submission. If that is not conquest, what is? Marcus met his gaze without hostility. It is intervention, he said, and it is temporary. That word temporary rippled through the chamber. What does that mean? Kureth asked. It means, Marcus replied, that Earth has no interest in ruling the hegemony or anyone else. We have no desire to administer your worlds, collect your taxes, or dictate your cultures. He gestured toward Velter. But we will prevent you from repeating a pattern of behavior that has cost billions of lives across the galaxy. Wexel clicked uneasily. You claim moral authority, he said. On what basis? Marcus did not answer immediately. Instead, he raised his wrist. The air above the table shimmered and a projection formed, human in origin but rendered in a format the Council could perceive. Worlds appeared, burned worlds, enslaved worlds, population reduction charts, forced labor tallies, cultural extinction curves, hegemony conquests, not dramatized, not editorialized, just numbers, just outcomes. These, Marcus said quietly, are the results of your policies. Velter recoiled. You present this as justice, he said, but you did not suffer these losses. Marcus's expression did not change. No, he said, but we almost did. The room went still. You came to Earth believing it was defenseless, Marcus continued, believing its people could be processed like resources. If you had succeeded, 8 billion human beings would be dead, enslaved, or erased. He lowered his hand. The projection vanished. That gives us standing. Jarn felt a slow, terrible clarity settle into place. You are not asking permission, she said. No, Marcus agreed. We are informing you of reality. Rendok shifted, leaves rustling. What happens now? He asked. Marcus took a breath. First, he said, the hegemony leadership responsible for the assault will be transferred to neutral custody. They will face a tribunal whose mandate is not vengeance but prevention. And the hegemony people, Kureth asked. They will continue their lives, Marcus said, unoccupied, unpunished. Their soldiers are already being repatriated. Their worlds will not be touched. Velter's voice broke. You dismantled our military, he said. Without it, we are vulnerable. Marcus nodded. Yes, he said, that is the point. A murmur spread, fear, anger, calculation. You leave us exposed, Wexel said. To rivals, to opportunists. Marcus's eyes swept the chamber. No, he said, we leave you equal. Silence. For centuries, Marcus continued, the hegemony has relied on overwhelming force to dominate neighbors. Remove that force and what remains is a civilization like any other, subject to diplomacy, cooperation, and consequence. Kureth exhaled slowly. And if other powers attempt to exploit this? They won't, Marcus said simply. How can you be sure? Jarn asked. Marcus did not smile. Because we are watching, he said. The implication landed with quiet finality. Nexvara spoke for the first time since Marcus had arrived. You are assuming responsibility for the balance of power, she said. That is a burden that has crushed empires. Marcus inclined his head. We know, he said. We have studied every one of them. Jarn felt something shift inside her, not fear, not anger, relief. Ambassador Washington, she said, you must understand what you are asking us to accept. You are redefining sovereignty itself. Yes, Marcus said, because the old definition has failed. He turned slightly, addressing the chamber as a whole. For centuries, sovereignty has meant the right to do whatever one can get away with inside one's borders, he said. We reject that definition. The words echoed. Sovereignty, Marcus continued, must be balanced against responsibility. Power without accountability is not governance, it is predation. The insectoid delegates clicked nervously. The ancient powers watched in silence. The younger species leaned forward, eyes bright with something dangerously close to hope. And if we agree, Jarn asked. Marcus met her gaze. Then Earth will share, he said. Technology, medicine, energy systems, transportation. Knowledge accumulated over centuries of observation. Kureth's breath caught. You would change everything, she said. Yes, Marcus replied, for everyone. And the cost? Wexel asked. Marcus's answer was immediate. No more conquest, he said. No more slavery, no more eradication of inconvenient species. Velter looked down at his hands. You are ending an era, he whispered. Marcus nodded. One that should never have lasted this long. The chamber fell silent again, but this silence was different. It was not paralysis. It was reckoning. Outside the chamber walls, the human ship Harmony waited, still, patient, unthreatening. Not a weapon poised to strike, but a reminder. that somewhere along the way the galaxy had mistaken restraint for weakness, and now, at last, it was being corrected. The 72 hours passed more quickly than anyone expected. Emergency sessions blurred together. Back-channel negotiations lit up communication arrays. Ancient alliances fractured, new ones formed overnight. Species that had lived under the shadow of stronger neighbors spoke more boldly than ever before. Earth's delegation, small, calm, relentlessly transparent, answered every question. They showed models, demonstrations, controlled releases of technology so advanced it bordered on myth, yet always accompanied by safeguards, limitations, and ethics frameworks. They did not threaten. They did not rush. They waited. Council leader Jarn watched the delegates assemble for the final vote, her mind heavy with the weight of history. She had lived long enough to know that civilizations rarely recognized turning points until they were centuries behind them. This time, there would be no such excuse. "Delegates," she said, her voice steady, "we convene to decide the future structure of galactic governance." The chamber quieted. "The proposal before us," Jarn continued, "is unprecedented. Earth requests permanent council membership, veto authority over military action, and enforcement powers to prevent conquest, enslavement, and genocide." She paused. "They also offer partnership, not rule." The votes began. One by one, delegations signaled assent or dissent. The ancient powers voted yes. The long-oppressed voted yes. The neutral hesitated, then voted yes. When the tally appeared, the result was unmistakable. The motion passed, not unanimously, but decisively. Jarn turned toward Marcus Washington. "By the authority vested in this council," she said, "Earth is recognized as a permanent member of galactic governance." The chamber exhaled as one. Marcus inclined his head. "Thank you," he said. "We will not betray this trust." Velter stood slowly. "The hegemony," he said, voice hollow but clear, "accepts the tribunal. We accept oversight." He looked up, meeting Marcus's eyes. "We were wrong." Marcus nodded once. "That matters," he said. Jarn raised her tentacles in formal conclusion. "Then let it be recorded," she said, "that on this day the age of unchecked conquest ended." Outside, the stars burned on, indifferent, eternal. But somewhere among them, a quiet truth had finally been acknowledged. Humanity had never been hiding because it was weak. It had been waiting. And now that it had stepped forward, the galaxy would never again be allowed to forget what power looked like when guided, not by hunger or fear, but by an absolute refusal to accept injustice, no matter how vast the void. History did not record the next moment as dramatic. There was no explosion of sound, no collective gasp, no symbolic gesture that later generations would replay in hollow archives. The council did not cheer. No one applauded. No species celebrated victory. Instead, something far more unsettling happened. The galaxy paused. Trade lanes remained open, but traffic slowed. Military fleets held position, commanders waiting for orders that did not come. Intelligence agencies across 1,000 worlds pored over the same conclusion, each arriving at it independently and with growing dread. The rules had changed, and no one had been consulted beforehand. The first ripples. Within days, the effects were measurable. 3 border wars ended without treaties, simply abandoned by aggressors who suddenly discovered their fleets would not respond to offensive commands. 2 long-suppressed client species declared independence. No retaliatory strikes followed. Hegemony worlds did not burn. They did not revolt. They recalibrated. Without the looming presence of unstoppable force, long-dormant political structures surfaced. Civil councils convened. Economies once built entirely around conquest began the painful process of redefining purpose. Ambassador Velter resigned within a week, not under pressure, not under threat. He simply issued a single statement. An empire that survives only by force deserves to be dismantled. If we are to endure, we must learn to exist without fear as our foundation. It was the first hegemony declaration in recorded history not backed by weapons. Earth did not rush. That unnerved the galaxy more than anything else. Human ships did not flood Council space. No armadas arrived. No flags were planted on stations or worlds. The harmony remained at Hellier, silent and unmoving, as if to remind everyone that presence did not require dominance. Human observers appeared only where invited. Human advisors spoke only when asked. Human enforcement actions, rare as they were precise, temporary, and always explained. When a minor warlord attempted to seize a developing system in defiance of the new accords, his fleet did not vanish. It simply stopped. Power cores went inert. Navigation collapsed. Communications failed. Human vessels arrived hours later, not to punish but to restore stability. The warlord was taken into custody. His crews were returned home. The system was left untouched. The message spread faster than any broadcast could have carried it. Resistance was possible, but pointless. The question no one could avoid privately. Council members began asking a question that terrified them. If humanity's technology was 4 centuries ahead, if they had hidden observation posts across Council space, if they had neutralized the hegemony in hours, then why had they waited so long? Marcus Washington answered that question once in a closed session that was later unsealed. Because power used too early teaches dependence. Power revealed too late invites catastrophe. We waited until the moment restraint would be understood, not mistaken for weakness. The recording ended there. It was replayed countless times. The children of forgotten conquests over the following years, something unexpected happened. Humans began finding people, not enemies, not allies, descendants. Across Earth, quiet communities revealed themselves, families whose ancestors had once arrived as conquerors, colonists, or castaways from species long thought extinct. They had lived among humanity for generations, interwoven into culture, language, and identity. They were not prisoners, they were citizens. When Council delegates learned this, something fundamental shifted. Humanity had not erased its enemies. It had absorbed them, not through domination, but through time, proximity, and an unyielding refusal to become what it opposed. Council leader Jarn's last session Jarn presided for 23 more years, long enough to see the first human-designed interstellar corridors open, routes that reduced travel times by orders of magnitude without destabilizing space-time. Long enough to witness medical technologies that cured diseases once considered inevitable. Long enough to watch a generation of Council delegates grow up never knowing a galaxy where conquest was normal. On her final day, she addressed the chamber one last time. "I have lived through 5 ages of galactic order," she said. "Each claimed to be permanent, all were wrong." She turned her gaze toward the human delegation. "This one will endure," she continued, "not because it is enforced, but because it is watched." She paused. "And because those who watch us remember what happens when power goes unchecked." Marcus Washington did not respond. He did not need to. What the galaxy learned in time, historians would agree on one thing. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy. It did something far more unsettling. It removed conquest as an option. No empire could rise knowing that its weapons would fail the moment they crossed a moral boundary. No civilization could pretend ignorance when every action was observed, recorded, and remembered. The galaxy became quieter, not peaceful, never that simple, but restrained. measured, accountable. And somewhere far from council chambers and political calculations, Earth continued as it always had. Messy, argumentative, creative, dangerous. The same species that once nearly destroyed itself now held the fate of thousands of others, and did so with visible effort, debate, and doubt. Which perhaps was the most terrifying thing of all, because it meant humanity did not believe itself perfect, only responsible. Final line long ago, the Council had asked in disbelief, "You assaulted Earth." Now, across a galaxy forever changed, the unspoken answer echoed in every system, every star, every world that slept safely under newly enforced silence. Earth did not need to be conquered. Earth had already decided what the galaxy would become.